All right, good afternoon. Our topic for today is ecological succession, and our essential question to write down on the top of your notebook is, can you compare and contrast primary and secondary succession?
All right, so succession is when ecosystems change over time and species die out and new species move in. So that's the process of ecological succession. And then we're going to use a couple of vocabulary terms. One is a pioneer species, and that is the first species to colonize the area once a certain event has occurred.
So there's a couple forms of succession, as we already mentioned, primary and secondary succession. In primary succession, actually in both cases, there's some form of a disturbance. But in primary succession, a disturbance happens and none of the organisms that lived in or on the land or the water in that area survived it.
And so the first types of pioneer species to come in and colonize the land after this primary succession event are the lichens and mosses. And the reason for that is because there isn't enough soil for other deeper plants to grow. So the lichens and mosses come in first on the exposed rock, and then eventually over long periods of time a soil layer forms, and then the small herbs and shrubs can come in. And then the larger plants come in after that, after the soil layer gets deeper and deeper, and then you get the larger trees, and then the ecosystem goes back to what it had looked like, similar to what it looked like before the disturbance had happened. And so the types of disturbance that cause this type of primary succession are glacial recedings and glacier melts that expose all that rock after it melts.
All right, so here is another example of primary succession when a volcano erupts and the lava dries. Basically, it's exposed rock and nothing has survived. And so the first species to come in would be the pioneer species, the lichens and moss, and that would break up the rock and start to develop more soil environment. Grasses would begin to grow after that, and then eventually it could come and reach something called a climax community, which means the original environment that used to be there before the disturbance, before that volcano happened. Eventually it can reach that climax community here in this example.
In secondary succession, as opposed to primary succession, we get a disturbance that occurs, but it doesn't necessarily destroy the community. This would usually be the type of thing we'd be talking about in the case of your developments. So when East Ridge High School went in, for instance, of course, they came in and they bulldozed a bunch of land around. It eliminated a lot of plants, but yet it didn't completely destroy all life there, right? If you think about a volcano or a glacier killing everything, including the bacteria in the soil, that doesn't happen in secondary succession. So we start out with weed seeds, and for that matter any kind of seeds. We still have a seed bed, and so it usually gets going much faster in secondary succession.
All right, so a natural disturbance happen with secondary successions, or secondary successions happen after natural disturbances like forest fires or a flood, or in the case of your project, a development or bulldozing the land. Like for instance, human-caused disturbances. So ecosystems may not be able to recover completely, but it's secondary succession because you're not completely killing off all species. So that's why it's secondary succession.
All right, so two questions. If you could please go to your teacher's video notes form on their website and answer these two questions. Number one, name the two types of ecological succession. And number two, name one type of pioneer species that could grow after a volcano disturbance. And then make sure to finish your Cornell notes by highlighting and rereading and writing two questions on the left side and probably a two-sentence summary at the bottom.